If you're curious about making rag rugs but don't know where to start, watch today's video and I show you different techniques that change the look of the rug to match your perfect vision. If you're new to DIY on the house, you may not know that I am rag rug obsessed. I have several videos on our channel that show how to make rugs using a homemade loom that my husband built me. So if you're thinking about wanting to make a rug but don't want to invest in a loom, you can make your own. So if you're intrigued and want to make your own loom, super doable, super simple. My husband takes you step by step on how to do that. Then I have a series of videos on how to make rugs using that loom. But today's video, I have been working on this content for quite some time because I wanted to show you the different techniques and what that makes the rug look like. If you have ever tried to make a rug, it's kind of always a little mystery what it's gonna look like in the end. You kind of have the vision, you have the colors, you have the technique, but what's it gonna look like? So I'm gonna show you today what each different technique looks like so then you can make the decision on the kind of rug you're looking for. The first one I'm going to show you is the one I was just talking about. My husband shows you how to make this loom on the channel, and this is probably the coolest rug of all times. It's super thick. I love the way that the pattern shows up. I have been corrected by many viewers that apparently this is actually called twining and not weaving. So I really don't care what it's called. I just call it beautiful. So as you can see on some of these clips of me making rugs similar using this technique, it is a motion of just putting one over the other and pulling it through. Your warp is other fabric. So it does make a very thick rug. I love them. I have literally made dozens and dozens and dozens of these rugs. It does use a little bit more fabric than some rugs because your warp and your weaving is all strips of fabric. So that's how come, therefore, it's thick. But this is what it looks like when you use the twining method. This rug here uses the exact same fabric as this one. So having them beside each other, you can totally see the difference in the technique and the pattern. This one is made on a single Heddle loom. I use the Ashford loom. I think mine is the 30-inch loom. Absolutely obsessed and love it. But this one, a lot thinner. It is a much thinner rug, and so you would probably definitely want to put a backing on it. But I'm going to show you different variations using the Heddle loom. So follow along. I don't want to lose you on little details, but if you look really close, you can see how tall these rows are. I did not squish my fabric down at all. So that's one variation. The second variation is the warping, the strings that you use. Like I said in the other one, your warping is fabric. On the loom, the Heddle loom, your warping is strings. But when I warped this one, I warped every other slot. So it's wide sideways and it's wide up and down. So to be honest, not my favorite rug. I haven't finished this one yet. It comes across as too airy. It's really not the tight rug that I was looking for, but I wanted to show you that that is one variation. The last variation on this one, you can see the little knobs. I joined my fabric by putting it end to end just as I did on the first rug I showed you. So it is just as simple as snipping the end of your fabric and pulling the end through the other. It's a great way to join your fabric, but it does leave a little bit of tails coming through. So there are three different variations on this rug. We have taller rows, we have wider warp, and then we have fabric that is joined end to end, leaving a little bit of a knob. But when you are weaving this, it's really important to take time to adjust the folds on the end of each side, so your side selvage. So I adjust my fold, I hold onto that edge tight and pull it nice and tight so you have a nice edge, and then you complete your weaving. On this one, I am not compressing my rows. I'm just pulling it down so it's normal pressure. I'm not doing any additional squishing of the rows. Now, still using the Heddle Loom, what if you changed up some things? So I'm going to show you what that looks like. This one is using the same 1.5-inch strip fabric. The difference is I sewed these together ahead of time. To avoid the knobby look by joining your fabric end for end, if you sew it at an angle, then trim your seam, it makes it less bulky and a nice smooth weave, and the rug has a total different look. The warping is much closer together. I used every slot on this one, so it is much closer together. But the third component that I think puts it over the edge to be my favorite is I take a hair pick and I squish down the rows. So you only have to do it after you weave about 3 rows at a time, but I squish them down as I go. I did not want fringe on the rugs, so to do that, you need to have a beginning and ending selvage. So to do the beginning selvage, I just take crochet thread and I make a good section that's about 1 inch tall. And then that selvage, I take and I sew to the back of the rug. That way I don't have fringe. Before I start weaving, I take a bottle of glue. This is called Fray Check. I'm sure there's multiple brands, but put a bead of glue on the very first row so that when you take it off, you're not going to lose your work. You end the rug the same way. When you're done, you get to the length that you want with your fabric. Use crochet thread and make another 1 inch tall selvage section, and again glue it before you take it off of your loom. After you cut it off of the loom, if it's an option, I run it through the sewing machine, just that I make sure my glue is dry, but run through the sewing machine, and that just gives it a little bit of a chance so that we don't have any fraying. Then I use the rotary cutter to cut off the warp tails. I bend it over the end, pin it, and then just hand sew it in place. All of the rugs that I do, I put on this foam backing, and I just simply hand stitch around the edge. We're getting ready to do a camping trip, so I'm getting my craft stack together, and I'm just gonna sit and close off my ends and put on my backing. The backing, I keep it on all of my rugs as I wash them. Put it in the wash machine as normal, but line dry. You don't have to remove your back before you do it. Put it all in there as is and take it out and just hang it to dry. So this is just foam shelf liner that works fantastic for the back of your rug. Here is a rug, same exact techniques as this multicolored one. This one is black and brown fabric strips and gold warp. I have to say that this one is up there as one of my favorites. I love it's thicker than the first one that I showed you, had the tall rows, but the way this one has turned out, I love it. So this wasn't my typical video. Usually I'm showing you step by step by step how to do something, But for me, I always want to know what's it going to look like if I change up a variable. So if you have tried any different variables, I would love to hear from you. Let me know different things that I can try. I have been making, like I said, dozens of the rugs using the homemade loom. I've only been using the Heddle Loom for a year or so now, but I am just completely open to wanting to learn more. So thank you so much for watching DIY on the House. Please subscribe, please give us a thumbs up, and check back for more videos.